All right, Matt Strickland, who is running for Virginia State Senate. It's going to be in the 27th district.
Yeah, 27th.
Got that right. Took a stab at it. Got it right. How you like that, Matt? Thanks for coming on and talking with us today about the campaign. You've been in this fight for a long time, going back to the early days of the coronavirus pandemic. Everyone knows you as the owner of Gourmelts, the restaurant that took on the governor in 2021 and won in that fight when you decided that you weren't going to shut down just because the governor told you that you had to do so. You kept your business open and continued to serving your customers. And now you're running in a primary election, June 20th primary for the Republican nomination for the Senate. Tell me a little bit about yourself. We'll start out with your family, your background. How old are you? And how you came up and how you were raised. Start there.
Okay. Well, I know I look older, but I'm only 39. So, but I was raised here in Virginia, born and raised in Virginia, and that's why I love my state so much. You know, my family has been in Virginia since Virginia started, and you know, like I always say, we fought in every war this country has had, and we've done it as Virginians, and that's why this state means so much to me, and that's why when the COVID mandates started and we started to realize we had a tyrannical government ruling over us. That's why a lot of people, they hit the road and they ran to, you know, more conservative states. But I won't do that because this is my state, and I know Virginia is a conservative state by nature, and I'm going to stay here and fight for it. Ironically, I grew up in Northern Virginia, and you know, the Democratic stronghold of Virginia. So I got to see firsthand how a Democratic-run government can absolutely destroy communities. I saw that firsthand, and I grew up in a lot of rough neighborhoods, moved around a lot, you know, grew up very poor. And that's why I appreciate everything that I have. And that's why I appreciate the United States so much, because somebody like me that came from nothing, you know, 5 brothers, 3 sisters, moved around all the time, you know, rented rooms, didn't even have a house of our own. I was able to make something of myself only because I'm an American. And I realized when I was very young that the military would give me that opportunity. And I wanted to set my future family up for, you know, better success. And I wanted to be able to take care of my family and make sure that my kids, my wife didn't have to experience the things that I went through. So I joined the Army at a very young age, 17 years old. And I got to my first unit, which was 25th Infantry, on September 10th, 2001. So the next day was 9/11. And, you know, from that point on, spent a lot of my adult life, you know, fighting downrange for this country. Got out and continued service overseas with a company called Blackwater as a medic on the counter assault team with them. And also worked as an intelligence analyst after that. So 2010, I came home and worked as an intelligence analyst. And some of what I did as an intelligence analyst, I identified fraud, waste, and abuse within the government. So that's really going to set me up nicely for this position here as a state senator, because we've got a ton of fraud, waste, and abuse here in the Virginia state government. And I've got 4 beautiful children, 3 sons and a daughter. My oldest.
And what are their age ranges?
My oldest son's 18. He actually graduated 2 weeks ago from Chancellor High School here in Spotsylvania. Then my daughter's 17, so she'll be a senior next year. And then I got 2 twins that are 12 years old, and they're going into 7th grade.
And how long have you been married?
My wife and I have been married for 18 years now.
Well, congratulations on all that.
Got married very young, and you know, we're still just as much in love today as we were when we were dating.
Well, let me get into some of these questions we have about the campaign and the issues that are facing the voters in your district. Your district is conservatively Republican. However, we have noticed inroads made by the Democrats in Northern Virginia and from Prince William County into Stafford County. And so there is pressure to bring more Democratic voters to the polls in these communities in Stafford County and Spotsylvania, the 2 that you want to represent. let's talk about school choice. There's a lot of talk about the governor wanting to do lab schools, the governor wanting to put more money into exploring school choice. Your opponent, Tara Durant, said that she would support such a bill. So when it comes down to letting parents decide, if parents should decide where their kid goes to school, should the money follow the school, or should the money follow the student?
The money should follow the student. And the reason I say that is because the reason why people who have started and grown a successful business, especially a successful small business, the reason why folks in that category are usually good legislators is because we have a business mentality. And when you're running a state, when you're running a country, you have to think of everything from a business perspective. And what I mean by that is your constituents have to win in every deal. Every piece of legislation is a deal. And you got to make sure that your constituents win in every deal. So with school choice, I come at that from a business standpoint as well, business mindset, in that what breeds innovation in the business world? Competition. And what I mean by that is me as a restaurant owner, if I'm the only restaurant in town, if I'm the only restaurant in the state that sells burgers, you have no choice but to come to me if you want a burger. So what motivates me to make sure I'm continuously innovating, to make sure I have a unique burger, or I continuously innovate to make sure it's different? Nothing motivates me to do that, because if you want a burger, you got to come to me. Well, competition is what creates innovation in the business world. So there's 100 places right around here that you can get a burger from. So as a business, you got to continuously innovate to say, hey, listen, you want to come here if you want a burger because we've got the best burger for X, Y, and Z reasons. Same thing with education. The public education system, they know that they have no competition. If you can't afford to send your child to a private school, and or if you're not able to homeschool your child, then you have no choice but to send your child to public schools. And the public education system knows that, and that's why they have a monopoly on things. So what school choice will do is it will give parents way more options. It will allow a parent to choose a school of their choice that aligns with their values, that keeps some of this political ideology out of the schools and gets more curriculum actually back into schools. So it's because of competition why I think school choice is important. And hopefully what school choice will do for the public education system is make them rethink the the things that they teach in school and the things that they don't teach in school. But one thing that a school choice bill most definitely has to have in it is it has to make sure that if a parent chooses to use this school choice option and chooses to have those tax dollars follow their child, we need to make sure that that school choice bill spells out that there's no stipulations in there that handcuffs the parent. So if you take this money, that doesn't mean you have to follow X, Y, and Z regulations, or you owe the government, X, Y, and Z in return. It needs to be we need to make sure that the parents are protected in the school choice bills as well.
So are you saying that if a parent takes public funds and does not use them for educational purposes, you would hold them harmless?
No, not saying that. What I mean is, so for example, in the school choice bill that my opponent Terry Durant was in favor of, and that they attempted to pass in the last session, it said that certain amount of tax dollars would follow the child, and it was I think it was like $2,500 or something. So barely does anything for a parent when you're talking about school choice and sending your kid to a private school. One, $2,500 is not enough. That's one. But two, it said in there that your child first had to be enrolled in a public school for one semester. So that handcuffs the parents. So for parents that are already homeschooling their child and or already have their child in private school, they couldn't even take advantage of that school choice bill. And that's wrong. And that's what I mean by we need to make sure these parents aren't handcuffed by this bill as well, where we say, hey, yeah, absolutely, you can use these tax dollars to follow your child. You can use this school choice piece of legislation. However, In order to do so, you're going to have to send your kids to public school for a semester. We need to make sure there's nothing like that in the school choice bill. But no, absolutely, the tax dollars that follow the child need to be used for education 100%.
You talk about political ideology in schools, and we've seen that big debate in Spotsylvania County in recent months about what books to remove from libraries, and the school board has taken some pretty substantial stances on what's permissible for young eyes, young ears. And when we talk about critical race theory in schools, when we talk about social emotional learning in schools, do you support those two tenets in public education, or would you introduce legislation to remove social emotional learning and CRT from schools?
Absolutely. I don't think they have any place in schools. I think what those are, they're just indoctrination is all they are. So anytime any kind of curriculum teaches a kid to hate themselves or people like themselves, or say that they're inherently racist because of things that happened 100, 200, 300 years ago, is wrong. And we shouldn't be teaching anything like that in our schools. Now, people try to say, when you say you're against CRT, oh, you're against teaching, the correct history of this country, or what truly happened and centuries past in this country. No, absolutely not. We definitely need to teach about slavery and such, but we need to make sure that we're not teaching certain things that are in the CRT curriculum, like, because you're white, you're inherently racist and such. Those things, they do nothing good for society. They do nothing good for children. And if you watch children play, children don't give a damn about race. They don't care what color you are, where you come from. They just know you're another kid and they want to play with each other. I truly believe racism is taught. So what we need to make sure we do is keep any kind of racial curriculum out of schools. And you do that by making sure kids know, hey, you're not inherently racist because you're white or because you're black or because you're Spanish. You need to love each and every one of your fellow classmates, just like you would anybody else. And CRT doesn't do that. It further segregates the students by race, and that's why I am 100 in support of making sure that is not in these schools. Also, some of this other far left ideology, like the transgender ideology and such. Children, by nature, they don't know who they are. Children, you were the same way. I was the same way when I was young. We didn't know what we wanted to be when we grew up. We had a lot of questions about life in general. All kids do, and that's why you have parents to guide them. So if a girl is a tomboy, and she might have questions about, why do I want to climb trees rather than play with Barbies, we don't need teachers and counselors telling them, well, maybe it's because you're actually a boy. All that does is further confuse kids. So there's a lot we need to make sure that parents' rights are acknowledged and protected within the public education system. And it starts with making sure that transgender ideology and CRT and such is taken out of the public education system.
It is Pride Month, and we have seen in recent weeks some Pride celebrations in the areas in which we cover here at Potomac Local take place publicly, and we've also that include different vendors to come out and talk about services that are available to LGBTQ and different businesses that cater to them. These celebrations have also include drag shows. And because they took place in a public place in sort of town squares and downtown areas, we've also seen parents come out and protest, saying that these types of performances, these drag shows, are not appropriate for the public square. As a legislator, would you produce legislation banning such public performances like these drag shows in public squares these parents have been protesting?
Absolutely. And the reason is because nobody can argue that these drag shows are not sexual in nature. They're absolutely sexual in nature. And for that reason, children should not be exposed to that. Pedophilia is something that almost everybody in society is against. And the reason for that is because our children should be protected from any kind of over-sexualization. We need to allow children to be children and learn, basic life skills, and not try to push this over sexualization down their throat. They'll learn about the birds and the bees naturally, as they get older and as they progress. But the reason why drag shows and such should not be allowed, in public is because they are sexual in nature, 100%. Now, if you want to do that in private and you want to do it for an adults only kind of event, roger that, do your thing. That's your right. But when you're exposing children to it in a public place like that, that should not be allowed. That should be illegal. The same way that, in any kind of strip show in public, even if the women are wearing pasties, should be illegal, because all you're doing is over sexualizing these children whose parents don't want them exposed to that. And if you're doing it in a public in a public atmosphere, then you don't give parents the choice to avoid that. Because, for example, if they're doing it downtown or something, and parents want to take their children downtown just to walk around for the day, and boom, you walk up on a drag show or something like that, where these sexually explicit performances are happening, you don't give the parent the option to keep their kid away from that. They've already seen it. So for that reason, I think that things like that should be done in private, and it should be adults only.
Let me switch gears and ask you real quickly about transportation. We obviously, the Fredericksburg region is a growing region, and in recent months, we've seen the Fredericksburg Metropolitan Area Planning Organization, that's a mouthful, FAMPO for short, push out more talk about more transportation programs, more public transportation. Studying, the east-west corridors such as Route 3, Route 17, Route 610, and this we've seen this in Northern Virginia culminate in the creation of certain states. State government organizations such as Northern Virginia Transportation Council, Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. These bodies, which have been created by the General Assembly, some of them take public money and dole them out to localities that then can use them for transportation projects that they've identified as needed. However, they are a taxing authority. It sort of creates a new taxing authority, a governing body in the region. Right now, Fredericksburg doesn't have such a thing, but there has been talk over the years to create something similar that Northern Virginia has for the Fredericksburg region. Where would you come down on creating a transportation taxing authority in the Fredericksburg region?
Well, first of all, we don't need another tax here in this area. I mean, we are already taxed enough. But when it comes to this area in particular, Spotsylvania, Fredericksburg, and Stafford, we need more help than any other locality in Virginia when it comes to infrastructure and roads and transportation, because our stretch of 95 is some of the worst traffic in the entire nation. And where we have been let down is at the General Assembly level. So they put the onus on us here down in the localities in the county, Spotsylvania, Fredericksburg, and Stafford, to fund all of this infrastructure for the most part. And we're on the hook for figuring out how we relieve all of this insane traffic that we have. And the General Assembly has let us down. So what I'm going to be doing, and I think this is one of the most important issues in our area, besides all of the hot topic issues, like we just talked about, infrastructure and transportation is one of the biggest issues we have in our area. So I'm going to fight like hell to make sure that we remedy that problem in our section of the I-95 corridor. And I truly believe that this area, because it is so congested, and, Virginia has set us up for such failures, that our district, our localities here where we're at in the 27th, should be funded a lot more from the General Assembly level than we are. And the onus shouldn't be put just on the counties for us to collect taxes from the local residents to fund these roads. No, everybody here in Virginia and not to mention out of state use our roads in this area. So we need more state funding for our infrastructure here in Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania, Stafford, and I'm going to make sure that happens. One of the worst deals in Virginia history are those easy pass lanes. So they took our HOV lanes and sold them to a private equity firm that is not even from the United States. So our roads are owned by a foreign company. That should not be allowed. one of the worst deals that ever happened in Virginia. And one of the things I'm going to do is look at that contract and see if there's any way we can get out of it, because our legislators have gotten us into some insane deals here in Virginia. And the reason is because we send people to represent us without, without proper business experience or proper life experience. And that's what I bring to the table is got a lot of business experience, one, and I've got a lot of experience identifying fraud, waste, and abuse. So I'm going to make sure that we get the funds necessary from the General Assembly level to try to relieve some of this traffic that we have.
Laura Sellers, who serves on the Commonwealth Transportation Board, represents our region on that, the Fredericksburg region on the CTB, said to me when she was appointed, we did a story, and she said, look, we put all this money into I-95, and it hasn't gotten any better. And at some point, we need to tell people, if you're traveling from New York to Florida, go a different way. Stay out of our area. And do you subscribe to that? Have we done enough with I-95 that maybe the state legislature needs to do something else?
Well, there's actually been proposals to take a section of the interstate and circumvent our area in particular, because there is so much congestion here. And I'd like to revisit that idea. And those roads were supposed to be out west of us. But I mean, you can tell people from New York and people from up north to take a different route until you're blue in the face. They're going to take the route they want. They're going to take the route that is the fastest to get from A to Z. And I don't blame them. I would too. But what needs to happen is we need some alternate routes to circumvent our area in particular, because people don't do much around here outside of our locality, because it's just a headache to try to get anywhere else. So people don't want to travel, 10 minutes away from their house, because what should take you 15 minutes now takes you 30, 45 minutes sometimes. And for that reason, people, they don't use or go visit some of the things we have to offer here in our area because of traffic alone. So we need at the General Assembly level, what we need to make sure is that we start working on these projects that we've been talking about for years, that makes it so the interstate goes around our area, not straight through it like it is now. But I'm going to see if there's any way we can get out of that Easy Pass deal, because what that deal did is it priced people out of being able to use it. I have customers that come to my restaurant, Gourmelts, all the time, that tell me, hey, man, it cost me $40 one way to get to work today. That's insane. Come on, man. That should not be allowed. That is the definition of highway robbery right there.
Finally, why should people vote for you in this primary election, June 20th?
Well, there's a number of reasons. Besides the experience that I bring to the table, like I talked about, that nobody else in this race on either side has. I've proven to everybody how hard I'm willing to fight for them. My wife and I, we put our livelihood on the line for you guys, for your rights, for your constitutional rights. And we thought we were going to lose everything. Fortunately, the community rallied behind us, and we won our court battles against those COVID mandates. We were able to prove that they were indeed unconstitutional. But we thought we were going to lose from the beginning. Our mindset was, there's no way we beat the government. Nobody beats the government. And we were ready to give it all up for the Constitution. So I proved how hard I'm willing to fight for you guys. And I proved that at all costs, I will not stop fighting for you. I'll make sure that your constitutional rights are protected, period. And not only that, because of the experience I have and how hard I've had to work to get to where I'm at, my work ethic is unmatched. And I think I've proven that on the campaign trail as well. I mean, we've knocked way more doors than my opponent. And I put my money and my time where my mouth is. So one of the things I realized is one of the biggest issues in American politics today is the fact that the people that you and me send to represent us down in Richmond and up in DC, half the time it's not even them voting for us. It's the people who fund their campaign that's voting for us through them, the lobbyist organizations. And it's a self-licking ice cream cone. These lobbyist organizations like Dominion Energy, they say, hey, listen, get this piece of legislation passed so we can pass these Green New Deals in Virginia, and we can put these solar wind farms up in your counties, and we can put these smart meters on your house. Make sure this piece of legislation passes. If you do so, we'll fund your campaign to make sure you get reelected. And that's what happens. So these candidates, these politicians, they're beholden to a lobbyist organization before they even get down to Richmond to represent us. And that's why 100% of my campaign contributions have come from you guys. They've come from the people. And that's all verifiable information if you go to vpap.org. And if you look at my opponent, she's almost, if you look at Tara Durant's VPAP, she's almost fully funded by these lobbyist organizations. Dominion Energy, who I just talked about, gave her almost $40,000 for her campaign. The only reason they give you that kind of money is because they want to make sure that you owe them when they get down to Richmond. Now, me not taking any of that money, me only taking money from the people I'm going to represent, what that means is when I get down to Richmond, I'm only beholden to you. And that's how it should be. And so you guys can rest assured, you know, by my actions, not just me telling you, you can rest assured by my actions that I'm only coming to represent you. I'm not coming to be beholden to a lobbyist organization or even a political party for that matter, because I've also proven to you that I will not only stand up to Democrats trying to ruin this country, I've already proven to you that I will also stand up to these rhino Republicans that are not willing to step up and fight for you and me when we need them to. I've already proven to you, whoever is standing in the way of your rights and your life and liberty and pursuit of happiness, I will fight against, no matter what letter they have behind their name. And that's what everybody should want in a representative.
Matt Strickland is the candidate in the 27th Senate District here in Virginia, going for the GOP nomination in the June 20th primary. Matt, thanks for coming on and talking with us today about your campaign.
Thank you, Uriah. I appreciate it, brother.